Hello everyone, welcome to week 7 of Literature 218. Hopefully I have everyone's journals from last week. I'll be grading those by Friday, and I'll also be grading your discussion from last week by Friday as well. Well, we're almost done. We're at week 7. You have a couple of assignments due this week. One, you have a discussion, and the second, you need to let me know how you plan to approach your final essay. So let's go ahead and begin. As per usual, you click on content, you scroll down to week 7, and then you launch the unit. And this week we're going to be discussing mainly the Me Too movement, and basically what we're going to focus on is how social media and personal narratives can affect political change. So hopefully you find that interesting. I know I do. There aren't a lot of readings this week. It's fairly simple. First, we're going to be looking at some survivor stories. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. Basically, I just want you to go through this, kind of get an idea of what the movement was. And it's fairly recent, so I'm sure most of you understand what the movement is and how it came to be. Then also here's a timeline about the Me Too movement. It gives you a historical background. But of course, again, most of us already know this because we're actually living through it right now. So, and then also, I'm going to go to the next page. You also have a couple of additional sources in the reading section. So one is a lecture basically on the Me Too movement. It's a little bit lengthy, but I do think it's a fairly useful video to explain the movement to you. Also, the New School is a really cool university. It's located in New York City, so I would check that out. It's a really neat university. Anyway, you also will be reading an essay from the Council of Foreign Relations. This particular council is actually a very important one. It has a lot of political power within the United States and, in fact, all over the world. It also gives thoughtful discussions about events that go around the country and the world. And I really think that not only is this a good article, but also Foreign Affairs and the Council of Foreign Relations is an excellent journal source for future courses. And it is apolitical as well for the most part. All right, so that's it for the readings. You do have a shorter lesson, and I did want to point out something to you, and this is the main point of the course. I want you to take a look at this sentence right here. As we've learned from week 1 in the course, narrative and storytelling can help expose and analyze the social constructs, stereotypes, and experiences we all exist within and among, and help dismantle those constructs. That's basically the point of the course, is how literature can affect movement and affect political change. And this is something that you'll be using in your final essay due next week. So let's go ahead and move on. And so you have a couple of activities that you need to complete this week. First, you have discussion forum 7. Now, what's different about this particular discussion is that it's mainly focused on social media and how that affects change. So it's mainly opinion based and not really necessarily on the readings. So I just want to know what you think. I want to know your opinion. I wouldn't mind it if you want to include some of the literature that you've read already, but I do want to point out that this is mainly your thoughts, your opinion based upon what we've discussed so far in the course. Then you have another assignment due, and I've already received a couple of questions about it. This is part 1 of your course project, and this week it's more like a proposal. I'm going to go through it. In fact, I'm going to try to get these grades back to you as soon as possible with this particular assignment. So the quicker you can get it into me, the more feedback I can give to you. Because if you want to start on that essay right away, I would say get this into me as soon as possible. And You know, if you get it into me by Friday, I'll probably work on it this weekend. Sadly, I will. And I'll probably be able to get it back to you pretty early on in the week. The reason why you want to see my feedback is if I find your topic or your thesis problematic, I can let you know. I could also give you some suggestions on how to adjust your thesis or maybe widen or specify your topic and so on and so forth. Now, in terms of length, there is not a length I'm looking for. In fact, I want this to be concise. I don't want you to write on and on and on, please. Okay. I just want to be able to get the gist quickly. So, really, when I say topic, I want you to tell me specifically what your topic is, what you plan to do. It doesn't have to be 13 million sentences, a sentence or two, or even a brief point by point is fine with me. The thesis, now, why does it say 1 to 2 sentence statement? With shorter essays, you generally have one sentence, but with longer essays like this one, so it's 1,400 to 750 words. 1,750 words. I should clarify that. But anyway, with those kinds of essays that are a little bit longer, you can write a longer thesis because you're encompassing more in that longer essay. So there is a sample thesis in there, but basically you can write about whatever we have read and discussed in this course so far. But you must include the literature from the class. If you choose to write about some recent events that we have discussed so far, most specifically week 6 and week 7, then you can use some of the lectures and some of the website material that has been included. That's fine. You can do that instead if you choose to write about the topics that we've discussed during week 6 and week 7. Now, when I say a short outline, I am not looking for a huge sentence outline. I'm not looking for paragraphs. I just want to know specifically what you plan to discuss and how you plan to organize your essay. As for the style of the outline, I really don't care. Okay? I absolutely do not care. I just want to get a feel for what your plan is. That's basically it. Then I want to see 3 scholarly sources. You need to use MLA format because this is a literature course. I'm going to upload something that will explain the MLA format to you so you get an idea of what my expectations are. Also, scholarly sources are not sources like SparkNotes or Schmoop. Ugh, I hate that site. Or Course Hero. For those of you who like to use that website, not in this essay, do not use Course Hero. It is a very bad website. Also, any sort of website that kind of just summarizes, that is not a scholarly source, all right? Biographical websites, that's not a scholarly source. General websites or just the text, that is not a scholarly source. Now, a primary source is the actual written material. A scholarly source is written by an expert, checked by experts, and writes about the primary source. So that's a secondary source, a scholarly source, a source that writes about literature, but doesn't summarize it like eNotes or any of those websites. It actually discusses the source in a critical manner. So what do I mean by this? Well, let's go back to the classroom. Let's go back to content and let's pull up the library. And I think I'm going to try to upload a library source that will help you that I've made before that discusses the APUS library. But I'm going to do a little bit of that here. So let's go ahead and bring up the library. And I'm sure many of you already know this, but the best way to find your sources is not to use this general everything search because you're going to pull up everything under the sun about your topic. Instead, what you want to use is the A through Z list from the databases. I'm going to let you know where the best databases are for this particular assignment. Before I do that, let's go back and look at the assignment. Sorry, I'm skipping all over the place here. All right, so here's the final assignment. Final course project. All right. All right, so you can discuss anything that we've covered in this course. You need to address two pieces of writing that we have read in the course. So remember, if you just choose to discuss one of the early weeks that we have talked about in this course, you have to use a work of literature, two works of literature. If you use works from week 6 or week 7, you can focus on the websites or even rent the musical. So remember, you only can have 20% with quotations. The most of the essay needs to come from yourself. All right, and then you're going to need 3 scholarly sources from the APUS library. All right, so that's why I'm showing you the library, because you do need to use scholarly sources in this essay. All right, so let's go back to the A through Z search in the database section of the library. There are a number of databases, as you well know, but I'm going to show you the best ones for this assignment. First, Academic Search Premier is an excellent website. Also, EBSCO Database Suite is an excellent resource for this assignment. The best one, actually, in my opinion, is JSTOR, and we're going to use that in a second, because that actually shows a lot of, it says important scholarly journals, but it also has a great focus on literature, and I think you'll find that very useful. And then finally, another great source is ProQuest. Now, there is a lot of crossover between ProQuest, JSTOR, EBSCO, and Academic Search Complete, but those are the 4 databases that I find to be most useful. Just a quick FYI. You can also go through subjects A through Z list, and this is good for all of your other courses. So let's go ahead and click on literature there, and it's going to pull up some of the same databases. So Academic Search Premier, there's Credo, but JSTOR is really the best one. And then also I find ProQuest to be helpful as well. But if you ever want to figure out what databases are best for your future course, go ahead and look at subjects A through Z. Also, you can always use a librarian. But for now, let's go ahead and click on JSTOR. So I'm going to go on JSTOR, and then you have this open search. Okay, I will take your cookies. All right, so go ahead and when you enter into JSTOR, click on Advanced Search. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you what I've looked for. Okay, so I looked up Upton Sinclair and the Jungle, and how I did this was I put in Upton Sinclair, lowercase, and then the Jungle. All right, so then you do not want Upton Sinclair as the author, because you're only going to pull up the primary source. You want all fields here. Now, if you want to make it more specific, you can use an abstract, which is the basic summary of the article. You can also use the item title, but for me, I prefer to use all fields. And again, here, I prefer to use all fields because I get to pull up more resources. My goodness, all right. All right, so then I definitely want to click on content that I can access, because and this is the problem with Google Scholar, when you enter in your sources into Google Scholar, you generally will only get abstracts. It's very easy to use Google Scholar. I love it, but you can only get abstracts mainly, and so you're not even getting the source written by the author. You're getting someone else who summarized the source in a paragraph. That is not useful. Sorry, that is not useful. Okay, you can narrow your results to articles, reviews, books, and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on articles, all right? Because reviews are just book reviews. You don't need to read an entire book about Upton Sinclair and the Jungle, because that's far too much. You don't need research reports, and I don't even know what miscellaneous means. I'm assuming you don't need that. So here's another thing. When you take a course for a science course or I would even say like a course that deals with environmental science or psychology, it is very important for you to get the most recent source because things get changed and science is updated constantly, technology changes. Luckily, though, with literature, the publication date is not as important because the literature has remained as it has been throughout time, throughout its existence. And so there's really nothing new and nothing updated. It's just different analysis that has been different sorts of analysis that have been given by authors or different ways to look at the work. So you don't need to necessarily worry about the date. All right. So let's go ahead and we are going to submit this. So we're going to submit our advanced search. All right. So note that I have 683 results. That's a lot of sources. So what my advice would be for you is to kind of scroll through, find anything that you're interested in, and then pull up the source and use that in your essay. All right. So basically, that's how you use JSTOR. And let's go back to the final project. Let's go back to the assignment that you have due this week. All right. Part 1. Whoops. There we go. So my advice would be before you start writing your topic or your thesis, make sure to identify the scholarly sources first. Because here's the trick. And I hope you're still listening. I know I'm going on, but I want to tell you the trick. Okay, so the trick is that you find your sources first, and then you use those sources to write your essay. That is, if you come up with a thesis first before you find your sources, you're locked in. You're locked into finding sources that discuss is what you think you should write about, right? Well, the unfortunate thing is you are an undergraduate student. You've read the work, you know the work really well, but you're an undergraduate student. What you think is interesting about the work may not be what experts have written about. So you're tasked to find sources and then use those sources to help you write those essays. All right? So don't create your thesis first. Instead, find the sources first and use those sources to help you write your essay. All right? I hope that makes sense. But if you have any questions at all, please, please, please contact me. I'm always available. I'm online far too much, and I would be more than happy to help you. Have a great week, everyone. I'll see you online.